All right, let's get right into it. When you think about the Canada Pension Plan, what's the magic number that pops into your head? For almost everyone, it's 65, right? It just feels like the standard, the default, the way it's supposed to be done. But what if I told you that going with that safe choice could actually be one of the biggest financial mistakes you'll ever make?
This right here, this is the thought process for so many Canadians. The whole system just seems to point to 65. It's not early, it's not late, it's normal. And there's a real psychological comfort in that, and just going with the flow. It feels safe. It feels right.
And that is the question we are going to unpack today. We're going to explore how this seemingly harmless default, this decision you might make without a second thought, can literally lock you into a lower income for the rest of your life. Because let's be clear, this isn't a choice for just 1 year. This decision is permanent.
So, first things first, let's properly define what we mean by the age 65 default trap. It's not about the number 65 being evil or wrong. Not at all. It's about falling into that choice without any real planning, just because, well, that's what everyone does. It's about how you get to that number.
This is so important to understand. Taking your CPP at 65 might actually be the absolute perfect move for you, but only if it's the result of a deliberate, conscious plan. The trap is when you just drift towards 65 because it's the standard, without ever stopping to ask, is this truly the best financial move for my specific situation? See, one is a strategy, the other is just a habit.
Okay, so to really get why this is a trap, we need to quickly pop the hood and see how the mechanics of this whole thing actually work. So, how does this critical decision play out?
At its heart, the CPP is pretty straightforward. It's your money. You pay into it your whole working life. How much you get back is based on a formula. How much you earned, how long you contributed, and the absolute key for our conversation, the exact age you decide to turn on the tap.
And this lays out the fundamental trade-off perfectly. You can start as early as age 60, but your monthly checks are permanently reduced for life. Or you can delay all the way to age 70, and those monthly payments get a permanent, significant boost. There are no do-overs. The choice you make sets the foundation for your government-backed, inflation-adjusted income for the entire rest of your retirement.
So now that we've got the basics down, let's walk through 3 very different, real-world scenarios where just defaulting to age 65 can backfire spectacularly.
Okay, first up, let's talk about lower-income retirees. For this group, there's a hugely important benefit called the Guaranteed Income Supplement, or GIS. It's an extra payment for seniors with low income. And your CPP decision can throw a real wrench in the works here.
Here's the catch you have to know about. GIS is income tested. So as your CPP income goes up, your GIS payment can actually go down. It gets clawed back. By starting CPP at 65, you might be raising one income stream only to watch another one shrink. The mistake here is thinking more CPP is always better. You have to look at your total net after-tax income to see what's really happening.
Now, let's flip the script. Let's imagine someone who is healthy, expects to live a good long life, and has other savings they can rely on. For this person, defaulting to 65 can mean leaving a ton of money on the table over their lifetime.
Think about it like this. Delaying your CPP is basically like buying a bigger, better, guaranteed, inflation-proof pension from the government. If you live well into your 80s or 90s, that larger monthly payment is going to feel like a lifesaver. And what about that objection, but I'll miss 5 years of payments? Well, that's where you use your other savings, like a TFSA or RRSP, to bridge that gap. It's about playing the long game to secure your income when you'll need it most.
And our third scenario. This one's for the strategic thinkers out there. Because timing your CPP isn't just about how much you get, it's also about how much you keep after the taxman comes calling. In fact, delaying your CPP can open up a really powerful tax-saving window.
Think about it. If you start your CPP at 65, that income gets stacked right on top of any RRSP withdrawals you make, and that can easily push you into a higher tax bracket. But if you delay CPP, you create this 5-year window of potentially lower income. You can use that sweet spot to strategically draw down your RRSP at a much lower tax rate before those mandatory RRIF withdrawals kick in and your income shoots up. It's a savvy way to make all your accounts work together.
So after seeing all that, it becomes pretty clear we need to take a step back and think about what we're actually afraid of. We need to weigh the real risks of this decision, not just the obvious ones.
Look at this. Everyone, and I mean everyone, focuses on the fear on the left. What if I delay taking my CPP and I die early and miss out? And you know what? That's a valid concern, but we almost always ignore the hidden and maybe even bigger risk on the right, the risk of outliving your money. the risk of being stuck with a smaller, fixed income in your 80s and 90s, exactly when you need that financial security the most.
So the whole point here is to move you from a default habit to a conscious, deliberate plan. But how do you actually do that? Well, here's a simple, actionable framework you can use.
First, stop looking at CPP in a vacuum. You have to map out all your income sources together. Second, you gotta run the numbers. Build a few simple scenarios. What does your real after-tax income look like if you start at 60 versus 65 versus 70? And third, and this is key, shift your focus. Don't just think about next year. Think about your long-term security. How is this decision going to feel when you're 85 or 90?
And to help you with that framework, here are the critical questions you have to ask yourself. And this isn't a quiz. This is the blueprint for your personal decision. Be brutally honest. Do you really need the cash right now, or do you just want it? How will this choice ripple across your other benefits and taxes? A decision made without answering these questions, well, it isn't really a plan, is it? It's just following the herd.
So in the end, it all comes down to this one thought. Is taking your CPP at age 65 a safe harbor you've carefully sailed into, or is it a trap you've fallen into simply because you never stopped to question it? The answer to that could very well define your financial security for decades to come.